Sky Sports News.
Hi Roy. Please could you start with any team news for us?
There is some. Unfortunately, we've lost Luka Milivojevic to an injury in training this week. So his name gets added to the ones that have been injured for a while. Although I think MacArthur might have been one of those. He's actually back, so we've recovered him. And we've got a doubt for Jeffrey Schlupp, who has been nursing a slight knock during the course of this week, so we'll make a late decision on him.
Okay. So we're looking ahead to Bournemouth. I know just a point behind you now. What have you made of their current form and what are you expecting from them tomorrow?
I think they've been excellent. I think it's an incredible rise that they've had from a very, very difficult start. The manager, Gary O'Neill, and his staff have always done a fantastic job, because studying them as we've done this week, we realise they're a very good team, and they are where they are on merit. I'm not surprised to see them, just behind us in the table. So what we're expecting is a very tough game, because they are a team that plays very much on the front foot, that likes to take the game to the opponents, likes to have good possession of the ball, and they've got the skillful players enough to bring that off, as it were. So we're preparing for a tough task at home, but I hope we're going to be ready for it.
I know last time I spoke to you, we were always saying about getting to that 40-point mark, but now you've got there. Are you setting yourself other targets? Are there other goals that you're kind of working towards now?
Well, I don't know. We ever actually set ourselves a target of 40 points. I had that more as a sort of a, not mythical, but a traditional target of points. So that's the reason 40 points got mentioned. But we haven't at any stage actually set ourselves a target of points. We've tried to go out and get as many points as we can, starting with getting 3 in every game, and we'll continue with that for the next 3 games. We don't have a target, but I'm hoping, and the players are certainly going to be trying, to add to the 40-point total and see where that gets us at the end.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, Roger from PLP.
Okay, Roy, no, microphone's on, they've got 2 of them here. As you mentioned, that you've reached the 40 points. It's 3 points from the end. We know the run of results that the club had before you arrived. Given the situation you walked into, has it been perhaps less of a roller coaster than you expected when you first took over?
It's certainly been a lot less of a roller coaster than it could have been. There's no doubt about that. That fantastic start with winning 3 matches in a row. I mean, that's a good achievement for any club in the Premier League, irrespective of whether you find yourself at the top of the table or the bottom of the table. And that 9 points made such an enormous difference to everything, really. Our table position, of course, but also the confidence of the players and their belief. So I think that if you like, took away to some extent the uphill part of the roller coaster, and it definitely flattened things out for us, and we've been able to benefit from that to play the most recent games without that knife that you have at your throat all the time, when you're worried that you're not going to take any points from the game, and even equally worried that the teams that you're competing with, they are taking points from the game, so you're slipping all the time. We've not had that slipping feeling, and we're very grateful for that.
And most of your time, your long career as a manager, you come to this stage of a season and you're already looking ahead towards the following campaign and what you need and who needs to go, who needs to come in. And so has it been slightly easier this time because you've come in with a specific task of keeping the team up, and you haven't had all those other things that might be in your mind, if you were a manager looking ahead to the following season?
Yeah, that's a good point, but it's also additionally the fact that for me it's not at the end of a long season. I haven't had to go through. So I came in March pretty fresh, really, and quite ready, if you like, physically, mentally, energetically, to take on this 10-game task. It's often a lot harder for players, by the time March comes around. They've had a very long season. It's been tiring, it's been draining mentally and physically. I've been spared that, so that's why I'm looking as fresh as I do today.
You talk about fresh. When you're coming up against yet another very young manager, Gary O'Neill's not yet 40. Does that keep you fresh, the idea of pitting yourself against this new generation of managers coming through?
No, that depresses the life out of me.
Just on people like Gary O'Neill, though, do you see it as a challenge, though, to be taking on these youngsters who might come in with new ideas in terms of your experience against their youth?
I don't believe in the new ideas theory. I don't think there's that much in football that we confront that is particularly new. If you go back far enough, you'll find evidence of it, not least of all the false number 9, which Hungary inflicted upon England in 1953. So nothing is new in that respect. There's good work, there's good coaching, there's good management, there's teams that are well organised, well put together, where a coach has found the best way to getting the very best out of his players and finding a formation that suits them. Maybe in the case, for example, recently of Man City, decided to put their fullback into midfield and then try and get him back in again when the ball's lost. That's something which is not particularly totally innovative, but it's a bold move and requires a lot of work before you get some success from that. So I think there's lots of that, but I don't regard myself as taking on younger coaches or even coaches who are in the same age bracket. As far as we're concerned, it's each game you're playing against the team, you're playing against the way that team has been organised. You have often a lot of respect for the manager and the coaches who've organised the team in that way, but I don't see it as a direct confrontation between an old guy and a young guy. It's two managers, both who are going to be trying their very best to get their team to become victorious at the end of the game.
If I can get your thoughts on Gary O'Neill. He's a young manager. It's his first Premier League role as a manager. He came into a team where the guy before him had left basically saying this squad's not good enough to keep us up in the Premier League. So just how much of an achievement is it that Gary O'Neill is where he is with a few games?
It's a fantastic achievement. There's no question of it. I mentioned it to Sky, initially. So I think everyone in football recognises the difficulty of the task that Gary's had and really appreciates and respects the enormous job he's done in confronting that task. And I'm certain that the people at Bournemouth Football Club must be absolutely delighted with him. He seems to have got a good relationship with the players on the field. They're definitely doing what he's asking of them. And that was the case, I think, when I watched a few games maybe 2 or 3 months ago now, where they seem to be losing sometimes unluckily in the last minute of games, but you could see during the course of the game how well they were playing. That's now turned to give the 3 pointers which everyone needs. So a lot of respect for him. I don't know him well. I remember him well as a player, and he was even on our radar several times at Fulham as a potential signing. It never came off, so I should be pleased to meet him for the first time on Saturday.
That's great stuff. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Rachel from PA.
Hi, Roy. Sam Johnston's had a couple of really good performances for you. What have you made of his journey since you started, and he's had a couple more starts between the posts?
He's done very well. I mean, we didn't drop Vicente Guaita. There was no need to do that because he was playing well and doing a good job for the club, but he got injured. So when I came, he played the first game and did well to do so because he reported the injury at half time, but he stayed on and bravely saw us through the second half. But then it was found that he had an injury and had to come out of the team, and that gave Sam Johnstone his chance to put the gloves on, and I must say he's done exceptionally well since then. He also, when he came, had a period of sustained injury, so he had to wait a long time for that chance. But we're very fortunate. We have 2 first-class goalkeepers, and I'm not at all surprised by Sam Johnstone. He was in the England squad in 2020, and West Brom, a club I sort of certainly keep a very close eye on because I have great affection and affiliation with the club. I know how well he was doing there and how highly he was regarded, so I'm not surprised at all to see him do what he's doing, and I hope he can keep it going, and I hope that the competition between him and Vicente continues because every club really needs 2 very good goalkeepers.
You've talked a lot about what's been familiar since you arrived at Palace, but what's been maybe the most unfamiliar part of your experience here?
Well, I suppose the unfamiliar part was going to be meeting a lot of new signings. We didn't have such an awful lot of new signings during my 4 years with the club, but when I came in now I knew that there were 5 or 6 players, perhaps 7 even, that I hadn't had the chance to get to know, and of that group, at least 4 or 5 of them were already very important members of the team. So that was the unfamiliar part. But I've got to say, when you work in the way we work and you're dealing with people every day, that unfamiliarity very quickly becomes familiarity, and you hope that you'll be able to establish a relationship with those guys that you don't know quite so well, as you have with the ones, of course, that you know even better, because it was not just a few months' work with them, it was a few years' work with them.
3 points potentially on the line at the weekend. If you do get them, are you going to kick back and watch some Eurovision after?
I don't know. I know it's on because I watch the BBC News in the morning before coming to work, and there's been a lot of news items and features in Liverpool talking about it, and I realise also this is quite an important one because it's really a Ukrainian celebration, and they can't hold the event in their country, so that but whether or not I watch it, I think it will probably depend on a lot of things, not least of all the result of the football match.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. That ends the broadcast section. Thanks.